THAAD, Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, has become a hot button word in Korea these days. And what is it exactly? And what does it mean for all of us? We want to be very straightforward about it today, right here in this program, Upfront.
Deployment of the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD system, has been officially announced.
한미 양국은 이러한 북한의 핵미사일 위협으로부터 대한민국과 우리 국민의 안전을 보장하고 한미 동맹의 군사력을 보호하기 위한 자위권 차원의 방어 조치로서 지난 7월 8일 주한미군의 종말 단계 고고도 지역 방어 체계의 배치 결정을 알려드린 바 있습니다.
The decision was made 5 months after Korea and the U.S. established a joint working group to discuss THAAD deployment as part of an effort to deal with the North's fourth nuclear test, which was carried out on January 6, 2016. THAAD is an anti-ballistic missile system designed by the U.S. to intercept the enemy's missiles. It can intercept missiles at higher altitudes than the existing Patriot missile system. And by shooting down at high altitudes, it can incapacitate the North's missiles and nuclear or chemical weapons before they reach targets. However, neighboring countries, including China and Russia, have raised their voices against the deployment of THAAD system. And detection capability of THAAD has been one of the main reasons for such strong opposition. THAAD's X-band radar is capable of detecting missiles 1,800 kilometers above the ground, and it has sparked controversies in the fields of global security and diplomacy.
사드는 북한 이외의 어떤 제3국을 겨냥하거나 제3국의 안보 이익을 침해하지 않고 또 할 이유도 없습니다. 우리는 우리나라와 국민을 지키기 위한 순수한 방어 목적의 조치를 취하는 것일 뿐입니다.
Northeast Asian region has been fluctuating along with the controversies over the deployment of THAAD system. Would it be possible to resolve diplomatic conflicts and deter the North's nuclear development? Upfront discusses the rising controversies over the THAAD deployment in the Korean Peninsula.
Well, for today's discussion, we have two of Korea's very best experts in studio. And starting with, on my left side, Vice President Choi Gang of Asan Institute for Policy Studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Professor Park Hee-rak, Dean of Graduate School of Politics and Leadership at Kookmin University. Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome.
Very excited to learn more of the new things about THAAD. We've been hearing a lot about it in the media and so on. Perhaps Vice President Choi Gang, probably let's start with that question. How do we best explain to our viewers and viewers who are joining from all around the world what THAAD actually is?
THAAD is a defensive system to protect ourselves from incoming the missiles. Actually, it is designed to protect the people, not area defense, not the pinpoint defense. So certain area could be protected by having interceptors like the very high speed, the missiles. So
for example, is Patriot an area defense or a pinpoint defense?
It's a pinpoint defense, very narrow, but actually it's much wider than the THAAD is much wider than the Patriot Act. Also, Patriot missile is intercept below 40 kilometers altitude, but actually THAAD is designed to 40 to 100 kilometers high altitude. So it's kind of part of the whole missile defense system. So if you're coming to the missile defense system, there are 3 stages.
Right.
One is a booster phase. Second is mid-course. That's when the missile goes around the outside atmosphere. And then it's coming down from outside atmosphere. That's actually the THAAD is designed to intercept the missile when it comes out from the outside altitude and the atmosphere. And so it's designed to protect. It's not an offensive system. It's a purely defensive system.
When we compare that with Patriot systems, for instance, isn't Patriot the real final stage defense system? I mean,
Of course, this is a kind of double-layer defense system. The Patriot is the final one. But actually, this THAAD is above that. So if you ask the questions to the actual real military expert about whether we should have it or not, everybody will go, we should have a double-layered defense system.
Of course, the more the better.
Yeah, the more the better.
Right. Then why do we call it terminal defense? Why there is a word terminal when it's supposed to hit incoming missiles on the high altitude and when there is also Patriot as well?
Yes, it's a good question. The terminal means this interceptor missile can only intercept the incoming missiles to me. So it cannot destroy the missiles which fly from point A from point B. That means if there's an enemy who attacks to me, it can protect us.
So those other kinds of missiles could be used both defense and then offensive purposes. Is that what you're saying?
No. There are kind of specialized. There are kind of ground to ground or air to ground offensive missiles, but the anti-aircraft or anti-missile system is most defensive system.
Okay.
And this THAAD system is to hit to kill the incoming missiles with no explosive. So even though Chinese believes that it could attack China, it does not have explosives. No, it does not give any harm to China. So it is very kind of unique interceptor missiles.
But then to add on more information on that one, those missiles that can be used at the launching stage or the flight stage, do we have those kind of missiles? Because we haven't heard about it as a general public. What do you call them, or do we have those kind of missiles that we use those missiles that we use to hit enemy missiles when it's launched or when it's flying through the atmosphere?
That is why they use the terminal.
Okay.
Terminal means it cannot destroy the kind of the missiles at the launch stage or mid-course stage.
Okay.
It only can destroy the terminal missiles in terminal stage.
I think I got it. So therefore, when you hit the missiles when they're launched and when they're flying, those are more like offensive missiles.
Not necessarily offensive missiles. Actually, to defend. There are three stages of defense, but actually we have not developed the booster phase interceptor yet.
Okay.
It's only we can detect the booster phase, but actually the mid-course we don't have it. The one called United States and Japan, actually Japan have deployed the SM-3, that's mid-course, so very high altitude, very high speed. But that's one system. The other one is actually if we fail to intercept in mid-course, actually is another assurance mechanism to intercept at the final stage of before actually the attacking missile landed on our soil.
Okay, so SM-3 can be used before?
Yeah, before actually in the mid-course.
Okay.
So that's the one, but we don't have it. But Korea...
It's still being developed?
No, actually, we have not
Korea doesn't have it.
No, doesn't have it. United States and Japan have it. Because actually they agreed to joint development SM-3. Now they are going to develop SM-6 Block B, much more advanced system. It is designed to protect each even longer missile because they have more flight time to detect and to follow. So it's much more reliable system. Because actually, but the success rate has not been so much satisfactory up to now. But for Korean government has announced that it is going to develop Korean Air and Defense, KAMD, Korean Air and Missile Defense System. But the delivery date or year is about 2023.
Okay, let's talk about KAMD later in the discussion. Okay, now I think we have a better idea about why it's called the terminal and what it means, what kind of other methods may be before terminal stage. But now, Professor Park, how is this THAAD actually being operated? We're talking about one battery, THAAD battery coming in Korea, and it has become a huge issue here. And one battery has, 6 launching vehicles, and each vehicle has 8 missiles. So altogether, one battery means what? At one time, they can, I don't know, launch 48 different missiles?
No, they can launch 6 kind of interceptor missiles at the same time because they have 6 launchers.
Okay.
Yes. South Korean territory, South Korean territory is very narrow. So if we can put the battery at the ideal position
right.
point, we can cover all South Korean territory by just one battery.
I see. But does it mean, well, we will have only 48 missiles altogether, 6 times 8?
But some people say that North Korea has about 1,000 ballistic missiles, so it is far short of defending them. But the stake here is not the conventional ballistic missile.
Okay.
What we are kind of have in our mind is to defend our to defend our people from the nuclear ballistic missile. So. North Korea can use it as in a surprise way, but it is hardly possible for North Korea to use it as a kind of that easy way. There could be some escalations and there is some ultimatums.
Right.
So we expect that 48 kind of interceptors would be enough to defend our country from the North Korean nuclear weapons, not a conventional
nuclear weapons.
Yes,
okay.
right.
Actually, there could be more interceptors, because actually we cannot deploy more than 6 launch vehicles.
Right.
But each one can carry 8. But if once you use all 8, we need more. So maybe there could be more the missiles available, but maybe there could be the more missiles they can think of. But at the moment, we are talking about only 48 missiles.
Are you saying more missiles could be thought of even with one unit, one battery unit?
Yes, definitely, that's possible. Because actually, they're talking about the possibility.
Because we resupply.
Yeah, resupply the additional missiles to re-inquire our capability to defend ourselves against incoming North Korean missiles.
Okay. Then in Korea, I think we've been hearing more, rather than the missile, I think we've been hearing more about the radar system, X-band radar. How do you best explain to our audience?
There's lots of rumors and conspiracy theories going around the effectiveness of radar. There are 2 kinds of radar systems. Of course, X-band radar can be divided into 2 groups. One is SBX. The longest range, maybe goes beyond our own territory, it's a 4,500 kilometers range. That's SBX. That's only available in, I think there's one is in Alaska, one is in the Tokyo Bay, one is in Honolulu. There are 3 available right now. There's no way for the United States to redeploy those SBX expanded radar. But the radar system they are going to deploy on the Korean Peninsula is the TPY-2. So it's much shorter, maybe around 1,100 kilometer range. So there are 2 rumors or things, like, of course, one is like for domestic reason, electromagnetic wave, how it is harmful. So, of course, Dr. Park knows more than I do about this, and that's one issue.
I think we can talk about the impact later on, but its capability. Can it really see a lot of things?
Oh, of course. Right now, I don't think South Korea has capability to monitor all the northern part of Korean Peninsula at the moment. So, because actually we have our own development program, but we have not completed the radar, the kinds of the reconnaissance surveillance system yet. So once we have deployed the THAAD radar system, I think we will be able to cover almost all the possible strategic target in North Korea, maybe going all the way to Yangon and Chagang, maybe it's a Hamgyong province. So we will be in a much better position in terms of detection. I think that's the most critical reason why we want to have this THAAD system, because not only the interceptor, but also we will be in a much better position by having more reliable the monitoring system 24/7.
Talking about China here, the concern regarding China, whether this system is actually limited to North Korea, and whether there is a guarantee that China will not be affected. In terms of technicality of it or technical details about it, what can we say? Vice President Choi mentioned there are 2 kinds of radars, and that there are clear the range limitations and stuff. But how do we know in terms of whether from the Chinese perspective, that the United States will not use the advanced one rather than the less advanced one? How do we know that?
Yeah, first of all, I think that Chinese political leaders, just like our political leaders, may not know the specific data of this kind of sophisticated system.
I see.
I heard that Chinese leaders learned many things from South Korean newspaper, and they said that it would detect China, and that sometimes it would attack
Korean newspapers.
China.
Okay.
Yes, yes. I heard from Professor Han Yong-seop, who stayed in China for 6 months.
Okay.
He said that. And so they thought it was a very worrisome, and they expressed some kind of negative things to South Korea. I understand that. But right now, I think that Chinese leaders, I think, came to know the facts. It is not that harmful to China, but they may not find the right exit strategy because they pushed a lot South Korea not to make a decision. And right now they are in the middle without knowing what to do. So I think that the Chinese military leaders should report.
We have a lot to say about the China, like later part of the discussion, because we have to relate it to Russia and all that. In terms of technical side of it, we are covering so far. Then the Vice President Choi, the THAAD itself, some people are concerned whether when it's located in Seongju area, Greater Seoul area is not covered. And they're saying, well, we are hearing Patriot would be sufficient enough to cover Seoul, Greater Seoul area. What's the idea? Tell us.
Actually, it's designed to avoid Chinese reaction against deployment of that. Initially, we thought about the two batteries, not just single battery. Actually, if you have one battery, let's say in Pyeongtaek area, to defend the relocated USFK, that's a more ideal location. The second one is a rear area, because actually we need to have the security and safety in those areas to have a kind of seamless flow of U.S. forces in times of contingency. So actually, I thought we need to have at least two batteries, but government decided to go along with one battery to minimize the Chinese reaction, because we can cover only the limited area, not going far beyond maybe the half line between South Korea and China.
I see.
So actually, they left. Because of that decision, that left the capital area is much vulnerable to the incoming North Korean missiles. So that's why government has said that we need to have more Patriot missile system to defend the capital area.
So will we add more Patriot missiles?
It is natural for South Korea to do it. Maybe I don't know what kinds of the missile system missile or the defensive system they like to have. For example, we used to talk about the Iron Dome, which was developed by Israel, much more reliable to intercept incoming missile, and also the MLRS, the long-range artillery pieces. So maybe I don't know what kinds of system, but in terms of interoperability, I think maybe we have to go along with the Patriot 3 system, which is more advanced than the PAC-2 we have right now on the south.
Do we know when Patriot 3 will be coming in place?
I can't tell. Maybe it's along the same line with the deployment of the THAAD system that is targeted to the end of 2017. That could be the area. So there should be kind of seamless transition from one state to another state. So that's why I can say maybe around at the end of next year, there could be a more battery of the Patriot system, also battery deployed. If there's no resistance, we will be able to if we are able to overcome the resistance coming from Seongju area, maybe that's the time.
Professor Park, more on THAAD as the system itself. How long has it been in use? How much test have we seen so far? And there are some critics saying that THAAD, the way it has been tested, may not really fit Korea's geographic landscape as a whole, which is much more mountainous than, we have a lot more mountains than like desert areas where it might have been tested and so on. What can we say about the THAAD's preparedness?
I don't think we had the atmosphere above desert and above South Korean territory is quite different. It's kind of just a kind of accusations for accusation. And the U.S., this concept initially started in 1980s, and it went through ups and downs, and it succeeded to have a breakthrough to hit to kill. And U.S. succeeded 13 times test fire.
13 times.
Yes. Okay. So U.S. military decided it is good to use. So U.S. military bought 7 batteries. Right now they were delivered 5 batteries, and they put all of them in Texas, and one they deployed in Guam. And the UAE, Arab Emirate, bought one battery plus, and they trained their kind of personnel in the United States in order to use in their country. So I think that THAAD battery is a very good weapon system. I heard that the killing ratio is above 90%. And so it is very reliable one. And so there's many people that who try to make some accusations about the kind of limitations of THAAD, but I don't think they know much about the military. In the military, we set the required operational capability.
Right.
That means that this weapon should perform this kind of functions.
Right.
If we set the level of the functions, nobody would change that. And if the developed weapons cannot meet that ROC, we call it ROC, the military cannot receive it. So the fact that U.S. military purchased the 7 batteries means that the system is approved to perform as planned. So
yeah, because actually it's kind of debate over whether it's half full or half empty.
Right.
But I think the THAAD system is the most reliable and the best the defensive system available right now at the moment. The other Russians and Chinese are developing their own missile defense system, but they have not reached the level of success as we have seen in the case of THAAD. So of course, somebody argues, oh, THAAD can shoot down only 30% of incoming missile, but that's much better than 0%. Okay. So it's kind of a useless debate.
Somehow numbers seem to vary every time, different sources.
Not 30%, it's more than 8%, 90%.
Okay,
yes,
so
it's very accurate.
There seems to be a different, okay. Another critics are saying Korea using THAAD, which is supposed to hit a missile, usually ICBM, but in Korea's case, there seems to be uncertainty whether North Korea will actually use ICBM to attack North Korea or not. I mean, so there has been a debate about, the THAAD are mostly for defending the United States and its allies, but South Korea is different because it's right next to North Korea. How do you respond to that question?
As we discussed, the term terminal means that the THAAD could protect only the target area. As I told you before, THAAD cannot intercept the missile which flies from point A to point B. It only can destroy the incoming missiles to the target area where the THAAD locates. So if we have the THAAD in South Korea, if China or North Korea attacks us with any missiles, it can destroy. Okay. But it cannot destroy the ICBMs China attack to the mainland of United States.
I see.
Yes, and also that you said about the lofty trajectory. We call it lofty trajectory. Some people say that it is not the kind of a normal way to attack the missiles.
Exactly.
But in the military, as you remember, the Napoleon crossed the Alps to attack Italy because Italians believe that it is not overcomable. Right. So military always want to take surprise. So if North Korea believes that we are kind of armed with lots of PAC-3 Patriot missiles to intercept at the 15 kilometers of altitude, they will not fly that way. They would use the lofty trajectory. I see. Last month, North Korea test-fired Musta missiles.
That I remember.
Yes, it went up to the 1,400 kilometers and hit the 400 kilometers, which would be the Seoul. Yes,
so we cannot preclude any kind of possibilities in military strategy.
Yes, right.
Makes perfect sense here. We've been talking about the technical side of the THAAD system so far, but we have much more discussion coming up about the diplomacy, China, Russia, and other countries, and Japan and the United States. And we'll have those right after this.
THAAD, Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, has been officially announced to be deployed in the Korean Peninsula. Concerns have been raised by the local residents over the electromagnetic waves that can be measured within the safe distance.
한 400m 높은 곳에 위치하고 있고 더군다나 그곳에서도 5도 각도로 위로 발사가 되기 때문에 지상 약 700m 위로 전자파가 지나가게 됩니다. 레이더 전자파의 영향도 없다는 평가가 나왔습니다. 중부 이남 지역은 현재의 패트리어트 전력에 사드가 또 추가가 돼서 훨씬 더 강력한 다층 방어망을 갖추게 될 것입니다. 이렇게 되면 수도권과 중부 이남 지역을 포함한 대한민국 전역의 미사일 방어 체계가 획기적으로 강화가 될 것입니다.
Along with the president's explanation on the safety of THAAD, the U.S. military has revealed its Guam THAAD battery to the Korean media, and it has been the first time for the U.S. to allow foreign media access to the THAAD facilities. Measurement was carried out to check the electromagnetic waves and the noise level of emergency generators, and the peak value was a level that can occur in everyday life. The radar waves reached 0.007% of the 10 watts per square meter maximum permitted under the standards of the Korea Communications Commission. And the noise from the generator faded away once arriving at a launch pad some 500 meters away.
They should have noticed that construction workers and soldiers were free to walk about and work in that area. And while we visited the site for just a few minutes, they obviously worked there all day.
The U.S. military has also emphasized that the THAAD system in Korea will focus solely on North Korean nuclear and missile threats.
Balance was tipped by North Korea's aggressive actions to continue evolving their ballistic missile program. And we are simply ensuring the defense of the Republic of Korea and USFK forces that are helping defend it.
Early on July 19, right after the opening of the U.S. THAAD battery, North Korea fired 3 ballistic missiles. This provocative action has been described as an armed protest against the THAAD deployment. Can THAAD deployment play an effective role in deterring the continuing threats from the North? All eyes are now on the THAAD deployment in Korea, as well as Korea's diplomatic strategy when it comes to boosting cooperation with the international community to prevent the North's nuclear and missile threats.
Vice President Choi, of course, China, Russia, we have a lot to talk about it. What's the overall landscape we can share with our viewers?
I think maybe in the longer term, the situation will become more stable. But anyhow, Chinese reaction and Russian reaction is not against specific the military threat. It's more political, because actually it means they are much more concerned with the formation of the trilateral security cooperation between the U.S., Korea, and Japan in Northeast Asia. So, for example, they know. I think this. Chinese and Russians know the details of technical capability of THAAD system. I think they have taken is more political diplomatic issue. So they are going to keep resisting, criticizing the deployment of THAAD as a kind of destabilizing factor in Northeast Asia, and will be accompanied by arms race in the region, all the things. So 2 reasons. One is try to put more pressure upon South Korea not to join the trilateral security cooperation, one thing. Second, and also they justify their arms buildup. Regardless what we have been doing, China has been building their arms very rapidly. Over the years, China has deployed more missiles than the coastal area. If you look at the numbers of Chinese missiles, intermediate, Dongfeng, 21, all this, China has been justifying the deployment of their missile system by criticizing this THAAD system. So, but there are certain reasons, because unfortunately, President Xi Jinping has specifically mentioned his position of THAAD. So China has to do something, or maybe I think could be harsh rhetoric for the time being. But actually, at the end of the day, I think they have to accept it. For example, the United States has been offering the meetings to explain all the technical specifics.
And they've been saying no.
No,
China has been
no China. I met personally Assistant Secretary Frank Rose. He was in charge of explaining. But also even the
And you're saying because China is doing that because they have their own intentions, they have things to do.
Of course, they have. They like to weaken the ROK-US alliance. That's their purpose.
Professor Park, do you all agree with his observation about China's reaction? And perhaps can you add something about Russia as well?
Yes, mostly. And at the same time, I'd like to add that I think that China is bullying South Korea.
Bullying?
We are, yes, we are the sovereign nation. They can express their opinions, but if we make our decisions, they should respect our decision. They developed aircraft carriers, and they developed lots of, as he said, the missiles and the submarines. We did not say anything. If we say something to their military buildup, would they agree and accept our position? I don't think so.
Would you say military buildup is what they have in mind eventually then? Just to continue to speed up their military buildup? That's what they have in mind?
The most important factor, I believe, is that the third point. Xi Jinping said something that he does not like the deployment of THAAD to South Korea. So after the Xi Jinping's visit in South Korea, the officials from China said repeatedly that they are against the deployment of THAAD without saying any specific reasons. So as I told you before.
Didn't they mention X-radar? Expand radar? No?
Recently, the kind of Yipeng said. Recently, the kind of foreign minister said that the radar, but they did not specifically mention about why the THAAD radar becomes a threat to Chinese deterrence or Chinese strategic interest. And they declined to receive the explanation.
Okay. You know, it's quite interesting to observe. All the statements coming from China have been done by the foreign ministry.
Okay.
Not the defense. Not the defense. Because they know exactly all those things perfectly. So it's
when they come out, they'll have to say things about the technical side, and they don't have much to say. That's
they don't have much to say. And the other one is like, for example, they like to weaken the U.S. presence in Northeast Asia, or also overall in East Asia. So this issue kind of like they like to have their regional architecture headed by, centered upon China. It's a China-centric regional order is the one they like to have. They need more time, but actually the meaning of deployment of that is kind of just counter-blow against Chinese intention, Chinese grand design. So actually the military side, for example, you have to look at what Chinese said over the years, because not they used to, we are just cooperating with the United States in maintaining peace and stability. But I think maybe around the at the last point of Hu Jintao administration, they have begun to say China will have to have its own military capability comparable to its political as well as economic power. That's the intention.
Then about Russia, if Russia and China are doing similar things, perhaps they have in mind the political card behind it. Do you see and do you observe anything in terms of how Russia is reacting to this that could be slightly different from China?
I did not hear much things about Russia. When the Chinese official went to Russia and asked their kind of consent about their opposition to the deployment of THAAD, they agreed, but did not say much as an independent. That means that Russia is nothing to do with the THAAD. They know the exact kind of limitation of THAAD. But as you know, the U.S. want to make some kind of missile defense positions in Poland and Czech, so they just should be against that. So they kind of agree. They help each other. China and Russia help each other. So
Russia has maintained their position against a missile defense system from the 1980s.
That's true.
So that's the same thing. But actually, Russia is like to cooperate or enhance as cooperation with China to enhance their regional presence by using the THAAD issue. So actually they have alluded the possibility of arms race in the region. But if you look at closely, the force structure and deployment of Russia, they don't have much thing to do in Northeast Asia. But they have taken this issue as a way to enhance their influence and presence in Northeast Asia.
Difference we notice between the two countries. Professor Park, a lot of critics of THAAD here in Korea have been talking about possibility of China retaliating to South Korea through trade and tourism and all that. let's be all serious about this. What do we say about those kind of concerns?
Most of all, I think the fact that they are considering that is a nonsense. That means that we have to defend our people at any cost. Even though we have to suffer from some kind of economic difficulties, we have to do what is necessary to defend our country.
Professor Park, that's clear. That is clear. But from Chinese perspective, are there any reasons to believe they will not be dumb enough to get into this kind of retaliations from China's perspective?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It is not that serious and a big thing to China. It's a tiny thing. And as he told me, it is just an excuse to press South Korea not become too close to United States. And also, right now, the trading partners of China, the first one is Hong Kong, second one is United States, and third one is Japan, fourth is South Korea. Japan did not hesitate to be against China in Southeast Sea and everything. But they maintain the kind of very active trade. So I don't think that we have any difficulties in trade with China just because we deploy the THAAD.
I have a little bit different take on that because actually, of course, we have Korea, China, FDA. China has become a member of WTO. If there's kinds of trade war, we can take the issue to the WTO for mediation, and also FDA. Since with the conclusion of FDA, mutual dependence between the two economies has grown up. So, but there could be non-trade revenge coming from China. For example, as we have suffered last year, the sharp drop of Chinese tourists because of MERS.
Are you saying all this in theory or in terms of practice when you say
possible? Because if you look at what China has done on Taiwan after the inauguration of Tsai Ing-wen administration, actually they have cut down the tourists. They have suffered. And also maybe the financial sector, they have drawn down some financial investment in Taipei. So those kinds of non-trade measures they can think of. But at the end of the day, they have to come back to normal again. The other factor we have to take into account, because nowadays people are exaggerating about Chinese trade war against South Korea. But actually, because Chinese economy is slowing down, so they are not in a position to go into trade war with South Korea. That would affect the U.S.-China relation very much, substantially. And also that would damage Chinese image at the global community.
Do they care about the image per se in different kind of measures? Because they have not been very hesitant in terms of exercising retaliatory measures.
Military measures was one thing, but economy, it will be followed really tangible outcome. So if you, for example...
I mean, rare earth material in the case of Japan before.
Oh, that was the case, but actually actually they finally recognize that actually damaged their own image very much. But it's, as I said, because President Xi Jinping has clearly stated what would be the Chinese position on that, so they have to do something, but they would not...
something symbolic,
but not really damaging the true trade relations between the two countries. And also, maybe if you come to local province in China, the interconnectivity between the local province in China and South Korean economy is much higher. So they would be also be suffering from the trade war.
Okay. Professor Park, in a bigger picture about North Korea nuclear issues here, the way China is reacting to this THAAD decision here, how do you think the way they do so right now will affect the way China will deal with the North Korean nuclear issue in the future now? Are we in a different game now? Are we continuing to ask China to exercise their pressure on North Korea? What do you see?
I think that our government and our people asked China to do more in denuclearizing North Korea instead of pushing us not to deploy THAAD. But China did not listen to that. That means that China may not as interested as we think in the denuclearization of North Korea. China may think that North Korea is allied to it, and South Korea may be the enemy of its ally, which is North Korea. That's why China be against the THAAD deployment, which North Korea whose ally does not like. So I think that we feel that, and we need the Chinese cooperation if we want to proceed in the denuclearization of North Korea and furthermore the unification. But I think it is very difficult to get its support if we go this way, the current way. That means that I think we need to make a choice. If we stay as it is, we would be betrayed by China. That means that we cannot see the realization of our expectation. But I think that if we select the stronger alliance relations with the United States, I think China would recognize that, oh, I made a mistake and I should do more to kind of pull the China from it, pull South Korea from its side. So instead of worrying about all the negative responses of China, we need to think about what kind of rooms for maneuver South Korea has. So I think we have many rooms to maneuver.
Okay, going back to North Korea question, Vice President Choi, does this, let me ask the same question, does this change the overall picture about how we are going to have to manage the North Korea nuclear issue after the THAAD because China has been reacting this way?
Two things. First of all, it's not a game between North Korea and China. It's a game between North Korea and the international community. It's a Chinese choice whose side it is going to take. So China is under pressure at the moment, because actually China is reacting to this issue from the U.S.-China rivalry. But actually, at the end of the day, as Dr. Bach has already mentioned, China has to be on our side. They clearly know that, but they need some kind of justification because it's North Korea who has caused the problem and also justify the deployment of THAAD. So China has to revisit its Korea policy.
Are you saying that eventually China will have to join again to pressure North Korea after
I definitely, because we have sent a clear message to China. So unless you do something, it is inevitable for us to go in this direction, to deploy with THAAD and strengthen our alliance with the United States. Maybe going beyond that and maybe think about the trilateral security cooperation with Japan.
Are you disagreeing with Professor Park in his thinking that China may be already accepting the notion that there's no point about denuclearing North Korea, and then they are willing to live with nuclearized North Korea?
Maybe because they have underscored the peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula, and they like to keep North Korea floating. That's the choice. So we have to make it clear that it is not possible for us to live with nuclear armed North Korea. So we have delivered a very clear message. So it is time for China to think about the North Korea politics very much. So unlike the conventional wisdom, because deployment of that would undermine our corporate relation with China in dealing with North Korea, maybe sometime later, maybe China has to come along with us. First of all, they have mentioned they are going to fully implement the UN Security Council Resolution 2270, unless it affects the people's life.
They said so, but in the past,
it lasted a very short time. But of course, this is a time we have to think about the kinds of economic sanctions. That's actually upgrading our deterrence measure vis-a-vis North Korea. Of course, if North Korea keep doing such things, provocation, and also maybe there is a fifth nuclear test, we have to think about the other measures between Korea and the U.S. So China knows that fact very well. So maybe at the end of the day, China will turn around, of course, on this North Korean politics. China has been kind of enabling North Korea, allowing North Korea to do all the provocative things. And at the end of the day, that actually damages Chinese national interest very much. They know that fact very well. So I think that at the end of the day, China will turn around. I hope it will turn around. China, and also the South Korean government has been has made very clear that we will do whatever necessary to defend ourselves vis-a-vis China.
Since you mentioned turnaround, how much time do you think Beijing will take talking about THAAD and then turn around and joining the international sanctions?
But who knows? But it will take at least another 6 months to see some changes in North Korea, the Chinese policy toward the Korean Peninsula.
Relating to that point very briefly, the recent United States move to step up the pressure on North Korea by naming Kim Jong-un and so on. Does that have anything to do with the THAAD? Very briefly.
No, I don't think so, because it's a totally separate issue. Because actually they are, but we have to be very careful about what is the kind of U.S. intention to do with North Korea. Maybe they have entered into end game with North Korea.
Professor Park, in perhaps defending your strong argument that you've been sharing with us, what have you observed, if any, in recent ASEM summit meetings and so on? Do you think the THAAD issue has in any way affected international community's attitude or their stance towards North Korea in talking about North Korean nuclear issues at all?
I think that if China continues to push South Korea on regarding this THAAD issue, I think international society would know, and China would be very much blamed by the international society, and the Chinese position would be weakened. And North Korea, I think that I'm very sometimes sad and pitiful whenever I heard that our President Park's asking to the international society to do something for the denuclearization of North Korea. But as you know, international society may not have as much interest as we have in North Korean nuclear issues. We need to solve it in our way and with the help of our allies and friendly countries around us. And so I understand her kind of motive and her kind of feeling, but I think that we need to be more resolute. For example, we delayed this deployment of THAAD for years, for 2 years.
Okay.
How can ask the other countries to help?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I see clearly right there. And we are getting closer to the end of our discussion here, and we have to go back to the technical side of it, Vice President Choi. The KAMD, Korea Air and Missile Defense System. Are these compatible? There are a lot of Koreans who are saying, we have to develop our own system rather than relying upon the THAAD here. What's the picture here? Do they work together? When is KAMD coming? I have a lot of questions, but be brief, please.
Okay, I think there's a connectivity between the KAMD, the THAAD system, but the KAMD designed to intercept the lower tier, not actually upper tier.
You mean Patriot missiles range?
Comparable to Patriot missile, just a little bit higher than Patriot, lower than THAAD. That's the problem with KAMD problem. And so the other one is like, we have to wait another 8 years to have the first delivery of system, but the system delivered by 2023 is kind of effective and highly reliable as to the THAAD system. I don't know. If I ask the questions, I think nobody can answer with 100% assurance of that. So maybe there's an intermediate one. But I don't think, because in terms of the investment, do we want to have a totally independent system? I don't think it's a wise choice, because maybe it's because you are investing a lot of resources in developing all indigenous capability. Instead of that, since we are the combined defense posture with the United States, maybe in terms of the money-wise, I think it would be better for us to go along with that system by developing more interoperable the platform.
Then our viewers may wonder, then why did Korea come up with KAMD in the first place? Is it because of the concerns about the United States coming into further stepping up their anti-missile defense, and it could cause worries in China, and Korea has to
That's exactly, because that's one of the rationale. Because actually, if you have an independent missile defense system, that could be the way to minimize Chinese reaction toward the other option. So that was the consideration. But still, we have not killed the KAMD program, but the development process has been very slow against my expectations.
Do you see KAMD coming in as a third layer then, as you said, Patriot, KAMD, and then
that's possible.
THAAD
if you have a triple layer, that would be a much more reliable defense system we can think of. But of course, once we complete the KAMD by 2023, can be assured by the effectiveness. Maybe U.S. can think about kinds of pulling out the THAAD system, but since South Korea is much more reliable on its own.
Professor Park,
there's no kind of fixed content or concept in KAMD, Korea Air and Missile Defense.
Right.
We have been improving the concept. At first, in order to avoid the accusations we could be part of U.S. missile defense system, we made a kind of KAMD mainly with the kind of lower tier defense. But right now, we have improved the concept into two two-tier system. That is lower tier defense and upper tier defense.
Okay.
Right now, we recognize the difficulties of defending capital area. So we are dividing into two different concepts. The first one is to defend the Seoul, which is mainly mainly lower tier defense, and as Dr. Kang mentioned, the medium tier defense. It's a little lower than the upper tier defense. And the rest part of our peninsula would be south from the Seoul. It would be lower tier defense and upper tier defense. So right now, we have upper tier defense for the southern part of our Korean peninsula, which is conducted by the U.S. THAAD.
Okay.
All we have to do is to have the more PAC-3 systems.
Okay.
And we have to develop the medium tier defense,
I see.
which is we call it LSAM.
Okay,
yes.
Makes perfect sense. We have to wrap up our discussion here. 30 seconds each. There are lots of things going on here. What should South Korea do and should keep in mind? First, starting with Vice President Choi.
Stay in course. So we have to be very clear, it's our own national interest to make it clear to China. We will stay in course. And also, second aspect, how we can minimize internal debate on this issue.
Minimize?
Minimize, actually, because there's always a kind of rumors and dissatisfied people around it. But of course, it is an inevitable choice for South Korea to go in this way. So, of course, maybe we have to think about how we can satisfy as far as we can about the residents in Seongju area. So instead of dealing with this issue as a kind of political issue, you have to leave this issue to all the professionals.
Minimizing discussion. Professor Park, we just had a we
need to have a good relationship with China.
Okay.
We sometimes need to respect Chinese kind of request, but thought we made the decision. So the ball went to the Chinese court.
Okay.
That means China should respect our decision in return. And so we ask China as an independent nation to respect each other. That's the most important thing, instead of afraid of the trade retaliation or that kind of thing.
Great. Thank you very much for your wonderful views here. And we have to wrap up our discussion here, viewers. But once again, join us the next time when we discuss all these important and interesting issues here and Upfront. Until then, this has been Kim Byung-ju. Thank you very much.